We live, Adam? All right, great. Thanks everyone for joining, and anyone who's on the stream. Let's go ahead and jump in. I already forgot, what was that? Is there something that's in particular there? Just
no, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're good. Yeah, welcome to everybody that's joining us via the YouTube live link.
All right, great. So wanted to go over the agenda quickly, and then we'll go ahead and jump in. The first thing we'll talk about is an announcement about Title I walkthrough. Go ahead, Mr. Hanson.
And also don't forget that we need to review the prior minutes and approve them.
Yep. And so we'll talk about the Title I walkthrough. We'll talk about the school we'll give a report or update on the school walkthrough that we did as a community council. And then we're going to talk through the dress code policy, review the technology safety plan, and review concepts on the personalized learning framework. First, let's review and approve the meeting minutes from last time. Rick, thanks for posting those. Let me pull those up. Or do you have them up already, Mr. Hanson?
I don't have the minutes up.
Okay, I'll pull them up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I've got those up. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Let me know when that comes through.
I can see it.
Okay, great. So we welcomed everybody, gave introductions on who we were. We didn't need an election because we didn't meet our threshold to hold elections. We discussed that all members and parents can put items on the agenda. We then had an election of the committee chairperson, vice chair, and secretary, where I was made the chair, Patrick was made the vice chair, and Rick was made the secretary. We talked about some website updates that were needed. We approved the meeting minutes from the prior meeting. We talked through the roles and responsibilities of community council members. We did a overview of the website, the Land Trust website, and watched a welcome video. And then we walked through the school improvement plan. And then planned the school walkthrough and talked about open positions, and then we closed. Are there any concerns with the meeting minutes from last time? Okay, then I motion that we approve them.
I second that motion.
Great. Thanks, Rick. All right, I will stop sharing. And let's jump into the agenda. So first item, there is a Title I walkthrough on November 10th. Mr. Hanson, do you want to give us a little bit more detail on that? And we'll see if we can identify who can join that.
You bet. So every other year, a Title I school is required by law to have kind of a walkthrough. It's kind of like an audit, but not as I would say it's not as intense as what you would think of it as an audit, but essentially the school is able to choose a variety of different documents that provide evidence of us operating the Title I, a Title I school in accordance with federal law. So it's just kind of a checkup to make sure that our school is functioning how it's supposed to be functioning. And so I am in charge of providing data and the evidence. And then as part of the walkthrough, we have focus groups. We will be interviewing staff members. We will be interviewing parents, and we'll also be interviewing students. Because community council members are usually involved in our school, and they have a good depth of knowledge about what's occurring. We often invite community council members to be a part of the parent focus group, but it's not a requirement. And so with our student focus group and the teachers, we just try to provide a broad, demographic, area, I guess, for getting teachers from upper grades and lower grades and kids from all over, just so that we're kind of getting as broad of a net for our focus groups as possible to make sure that we're kind of seeing things from multiple perspectives, etc. So, the school takes care of the invitations for students. We get parent permission. Then we also will take care of the faculty members too, where I'll just ask some faculty members to voluntarily, participate in the focus group interview. And then the last part is the parents. And then after we do the focus group, then in years past, they would split up and go around the school and just kind of see different parts of the school. But now it's actually just a walkthrough, just like we did with our community. And so where we walk through the school and they document and take notes, and we talk about their findings or whatever, and then we have a debriefing session, and usually the whole thing takes around 2 or 3 hours is about what they spend at our school. So ours is November 10th, so we'll get to the question of who thinks they could potentially make that. And Rick, go ahead.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Who's the they? Is this who's walking through? Can you remind us?
We can't give you their names.
I'm sorry. No, I just like the title. Just like I can capture it in the notes.
I'm sorry, we're streaming. I'm remembering. Okay. They are the director of federal programs. His name is Dr. VR. And we also have other staff members from his department. And then we also have other Title I principals. So that will be the district personnel, the they that will be there, and an area director, elementary school area director as well. So we'll probably, I think it's 5 or 6 district personnel, and then then the principals or whatever, and then that's the group. And then any parents that we provided an opportunity for parents to do the walkthrough with us earlier when we did our community council walkthrough. But if some parents missed that, then we could invite them to join us. So those of you that are listening, if you would like to join us on November 10th for another walkthrough opportunity, then we can extend that to you now.
Great. And was that listed in the Lion Pride newsletter?
The Title I, I didn't put an invite for, I did not put an invite just for that. So I'll get your feedback right now. I can do a call out tomorrow about it, or I can include it at the very top of the Lion Pride on Monday. But if you think that's too short of notice, then I can send something out tomorrow. What do you think?
I'm not going to be able to make it myself. Rick, do you think you'd be able to attend on the 10th?
What is usually in the mornings?
This walkthrough would be in the morning. Yes.
Yeah, then I could attend it. Yeah.
Yeah, if it were like in the mid-afternoon or something, I might be able to attend. But unfortunately, I have a conflict in the morning. So we'll have Rick there, it sounds like. Obviously it can be challenging at times to get participation from parents. So if we think we need like 4 or 5 parents involved there, might be a little difficult if it just comes out in the Lion Pride newsletter on Monday.
Okay, so let's, I will make a note here, and I'll make sure that we do a call out tomorrow. And we'll just invite parents again and say, here, we have another opportunity for a walkthrough and you can join us. because we're only interviewing, some parents or whatever, so the focus group, I think, will be starting around 8:30. So Rick, if you're planning on attending the walkthrough and you're going to be, are you okay with being interviewed by the people? Okay.
I am, and I don't know if I can't do it quite at 8:30. This is a weird niche thing, but I have to walk. My son has to go to kindergarten with me.
Right.
So I'd be there. So after I drop him off at 8:45, I can come in. Is that okay?
Okay. I think so. And I think they just want to try to wrap up the focus group interviews by 9. Now there is a I have a faculty meeting. We go over data from our school and things like that. And the faculty meeting starts at 7:45. If people that are going to participate in the walkthrough that aren't being interviewed, I think I'm going to encourage them to just come at 9.
Okay.
But if you wanted to attend the faculty meeting because you're a person that's being interviewed, then you're a part of the parent focus group, then you're welcome to attend that if you want to. But if trying to be there at 7:45 with getting your kids to school is too hard, then that's okay.
I can try. I can talk to my wife and see.
Okie dokie. Okay, so
She's
I'll
really
just
awesome,
put,
Rick.
go ahead.
She's really awesome, and she was a
Thank you.
fabulous substitute to me. We're really lucky to be happy.
She's been enjoying it, so.
She's a rock star.
Yay. Okay, does
Cool.
anybody have any other questions about the Title I walkthrough? Should be easy peasy lemon squeezy. So since we just did one, and that could be a natural segue, Adam, right into our reflection on how our own walkthrough went.
That is a great segue. Couldn't have timed it any better. So yeah, let's talk through that. So Rick and I were both there at the walkthrough. Maybe I'll give my brief recap, and then Rick, you can add your thoughts. As a community council, right, the money that we are allocated by the land trust goes towards things like technology and teacher training and hiring aides and all these types of things. And what I found really beneficial in the walkthrough was we saw all of those elements in action, right? We saw how critical and core technology is to the education of our students, all the way from some of the younger grades that were a little bit more chaotic, but, we're still on their iPads and stuff, to the more controlled older grades, just sitting at their desk quietly working on their laptops. But that money that we allocate to technology directly benefits the students, right? As we went through and, saw some of the chaos of the classrooms, especially the younger grades, it also became apparent how helpful funding can be for aides to come in and help with, language skills or math skills or whatever it is. So that was my kind of takeaway from the walkthrough, was just how beneficial the funds that we allocate are and how core it is to the way that the school, functions. So yeah, I thought the walkthrough was really beneficial, just to kind of see all of what we talk about in these meetings, which feels a little bit disconnected from the day-to-day reality, kind of in action.
Thanks, I appreciate your feedback and your perspective. Rick?
Yeah, for sure. Rick, what were your thoughts on it?
My thoughts are actually very similar to yours, Adam, as well, where as we walked through the school, I likewise saw children and students actively engaging with the faculty and staff, especially on their laptops. I was, and it wasn't just like they were individually in their laptops, but sometimes they were guided by their teacher as well, where like the teacher had, there was a classroom we went to where the teacher was teaching every student on their projector, but they were all on their laptops interacting with him and through the software. And that was really neat to me to see that. Plus it was neat to see the same thing with students working individually in their laptops, doing the, I think Dan clarified this as like personalized learning, hopefully, where they were like on their own pace, learning like math concepts or reading concepts on their own. So I really like, that was like the big takeaway for me. Oh, go ahead, Dan, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's the Canvas learning management system that the Davis School District has, adopted, provides a one-stop shop for resources and curriculum so that the teachers can put essentially like their lesson plans onto Canvas, and then by them doing that, it does allow for kids to be able to accelerate or take more time on certain concepts, and they can kind of go at their own pace, and their own pace is usually the right pace.
Yep. And then I similarly realized the need for support in the classroom, like with aides or maybe other support that could be there, because I saw a lot of teachers didn't have the aid. I also almost feel like they all needed an aid in their classroom, but I understand the resource problem there. So 100% see that issue. But
and that's a plug. That's a plug for volunteers too. So for everybody that's listening, we can, if you're a parent and you have some time that you can come down to King Elementary and volunteer in the classroom, we would love to have you. I will say that as our students are transitioning from a heavy teacher-directed traditional classroom to a new frontier of a student-directed that, in my opinion, holds a greater benefit for kids, that as we are transitioning and making the shift and redefining the culture of school, that having that support as we make the change is crucial and important. Because we can't just expect kids to understand how to do a new kind of school without having that kind of support. So.
Great. Any other thoughts, Tad, on the walkthrough?
No, I think that was a good. Those are my takeaways are very similar to yours, Adam, as well. So, yeah.
Cool. Great to hear. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, which is reviewing the dress code policy. Mr. Hanson, do you want to walk us through that?
You bet. And I'll just share my screen. And let's see. I think I'm just going to do something. Oh, this is the one that I need to do. Okay. I almost clicked the wrong button, but then I was smart and didn't. Okay. So this is our current dress code policy. One thing that I'll remind community council members is that you're representatives of the community, and that dress code policies are very individualistic, and that they're determined. Every community has different standards, and that dress code policies can be adapted and changed to meet the standards of the community. And so there is no set dress code policy, but there's probably themes within the dress code policy. And most dress code policies are built to ensure that there is not disruption in the classroom that's caused through clothing or hairstyle or makeup or things like that that could be disruptive to the learning environment. It's not a policy meant to be punitive or to look for ways to restrict people's individuality or to look for ways to remove kids from class. That being said, the dress code policy that we have currently could use some updating. And if we choose to do that, that's something that community council. So I would probably, what I would like to recommend is that we can review it. I would love for you to reflect on it and maybe even talk to other community members or your neighbors about it. And then maybe we can come back at our next meeting with having gotten some feedback from some other people about the dress code policy and see if we're going to make any changes. I did tell Adam that the one major thing that has been brought to me by other parents has been the dress code policy of not wearing hats. And many of you that have been to our school know that we sell school hats. And so, you know, many parents that have purchased a school hat for their child, you know, are like, hey, my kid would really like to wear their hat to school. And I am all about having school pride. And so that's something that I would like to support them in, but we just want to make sure that we have things documented in our dress code policy. And then it could get us into the weeds of, you know, are we going to allow, you know, all hats or just school hats, or, you know, questions like that. Those are things that you need to be thinking about. The other thing is that we have had some recent concerns regarding makeup, and makeup is not something that we typically have a statement about in the dress code policy. But from my perspective as an administrator, it might be something that we want to include. So that's where there are some students who are trying to use makeup in what I would deem an excessive way that is causing disruption in the classroom. And we have to understand too that some of these concepts are going to be broad and open to interpretation. You know, we're not going to be calculating the surface area of how much makeup kids are putting on their faces or whatever, but that's just something that has recently occurred that's related to the dress code policy. And so I can go through the policy, but essentially, you know, we have a statement related to hair. I know that in recent years, and no colored hair, I know that in recent years it's been fairly popular for girls in particular to color the tips of their hair. I know that I see it with children and with kids frequently. So that is kind of a trend that I've seen that we may need to talk about, because the prior type of dress code policy, you know, are we talking about is coloring hair on the entire head, you know, too disruptive versus just a part of the hair? You know, there's lots of kind of gray area there. And then also, you know, not even just the color of the hair, but then hairstyle questions. Obviously, any type of clothing that has inappropriate content on it, you know, that's a no-brainer as far as being included on the dress code policy. But once we kind of get into some other aspects of modesty and things like that, then it can get a little bit gray as well. You can see right here on my screen that, you know, we have a statement right here. We're talking about shirts, tops, and dresses required to have sleeves, and talking about clothing that exposes bare midriffs. Buttocks or undergarments are not allowed, and tank top, spaghetti strap shirts. So we have some of that language in there. You can see right here we have the hats and the bandanas prohibited by school unless designated by teachers for a special event. And it's interesting to note that kids want to wear their hats so much so that it can often be a reward that teachers can, hey, if we can do this or we can achieve this goal, then you can wear your hats in class. So I know that there's enough student interest there. As far as shoes go, you know, there's not any bands or anything on shoes. You know, it says flip-flops, platforms, or any shoes that make it difficult to engage in vigorous play or have the potentiality for a safety issue or for some child getting hurt. You know, flip-flops, maybe that might be questionable. Platforms, if they trip and fall, maybe. We have on there Heelys. Heelys have wheels in the shoes, and I think that their prevalence has died down over the years, where I don't feel like there's too many kids that wear them to school. But because of risk management concerns and things like that, any type of, riding a bike, a scooter, or skateboard on school property is not allowed. And when you have a shoe that has a wheel right inside of it, it kind of complicates things. The last part is my bolded statement here at the bottom. And at various times, school administration can permit students to wear certain types of clothing for health or safety reasons in connection with certain specialized school-sponsored activities and events. For instance, Red Ribbon Week or other types of week. And obviously, when we allow kids, even though we try to tell them, hey, it's for a special occasion, sometimes that confuses kids about when it's okay, when it's not okay, because I think we're kind of sending mixed messages a little bit about what's okay to wear or dress or how to do your hair at school or whatever. And then we just tried to put in a statement there that talks about how we try to address dress code violations. We try to maintain the dignity of students when we have dress code violations. We try to do things in private where we usually ask the child to address and correct the problem first. And when we have home support and parent support, that's usually as far as it goes. But if it continues, then it becomes more problematic as we try to determine what to do if a child continues to come to school with dress code violations. So yep. That is an overview of it, and I will just open it to your thoughts very briefly about the policy and your thoughts about it. And then I would just say, I would encourage you to go discuss it with your neighbors and people and see if there are any feedback that you can get. And there's one thing that I kind of said that Superintendent Newey has said that it stuck with me that I really like, that we don't want to look for reasons to not allow or not have kids come to school. And so I think I have seen dress code policies that may have been excessive and they're super long and there's a big list of things. And so I think that we want to be balanced in our approach because we want kids at school. We want them learning. We want them here at King Elementary, but we don't want them to disrupt the school environment. And so we want to try to have as many allowances as we can for different ways of thinking and different values or whatever surrounding dress code policy, but still maintaining an environment of structure and order.
Right.
So there you go.
Some of those things may have been more disruptive at one point than maybe they previously are. It looks like Leslie and Rick both have their hands raised for questions. Leslie, you want to go first?
Sure. I just want to comment really quick that we had at a former school, we had the debate about hats, especially as it got really hot outside. And at that time, we made a decision at one of my schools to allow the kids to bring hats that they could wear outside to recess or while they were at PE. But then when they came back in, they took them off. So that was just something to consider without wearing the hat all day long, but then they could still wear a hat. And then another one is it's just really good to leave it open-ended because you don't know when that extreme hairstyle is going to come in where the kid has a bright green mohawk, and that really is an outlier. Like I taught back in the day when a kid did a little faux hawk, and that was very distracting. All the kids could do nothing but talk about it. And of course, that's not the case anymore. It's, we have a lot of colors and different hairstyles, but just leaving it a little bit open so that if it's noticeably, if kids are distracted by it, it's
right,
something.
Right, and probably, making sure, and probably my advice in two things is, the number one thing is that we don't want kids to feel that we are targeting them, and that obviously some of these policies are very subjective. And so we don't want kids wondering, well, it's not okay for me, but maybe okay for somebody else. So trying to make it as clear as possible, I think, is a good thing. To Leslie's point about the hat wearing, in the summertime, yes, and even in the wintertime, right, when it's cold, we have kids that say, hey, we want to wear a hat outside. And right now, we are operating under that that type of situation where kids, for both purposes, right, if it's hot and they want to provide some shade to their face, or if it's cold, outside, that they want to put on a hat to keep warm, whether it's a beanie or whether it's a baseball cap. I don't differentiate between the two. If a child says, hey, this is what's going to keep my head warm. So really, we're kind of talking about if we're going to have hats. So right now it's up to teacher choice in the classroom, and it's not allowed in the hallways or other classrooms. So to be clear, if we were considering a change regarding hats, then those would be the areas that we would be looking at. Yes, Leslie.
We also have to remember that if we do allow kids to wear hats out to recess, I mean, beanies, normally kids, they're getting their winter gear on as they go to lunch. They may have a beanie on, but if we allow baseball caps, they may be wearing a baseball cap at lunch and in the hall going out to recess, just so they don't lose it on their head. Those are just things to all consider.
Right. And then to your point, if they have to bring their clothing with them to the lunchroom, which they do, because we don't allow them to go back to their class, then they're going to be wearing the hat in the halls and in the lunchroom. And so you can see how it can be confusing to kids who are like, okay, so I'm allowed to wear it in the halls when I'm going to lunch, and I'm allowed to wear it in the lunchroom, and I'm allowed to wear it outside, but I can't wear it, in other rooms. And so that's why, some of the kids, and then if they do bring a hat, but then we're telling them they can't wear it the whole day, or they can only wear it in specific rooms in the school, that's why it's confusing to kids anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's
wanna
why
achieve
parents have brought that up, to me or whatever, for the same reason, I think. Rick, you've been super patient and your hand's raised.
Oh, you're good. This is a great conversation. I just wanted to ask, when you talk about the makeup, is it disruptive because they're putting makeup on in the classroom, or is it because they're wearing too much to school that day?
The concern that's been brought to me is not that kids are putting it on at school, but they're excessively putting it on their face. Probably, so sometimes kids will try to draw on themselves, or maybe they might take a pen out with them to recess or something, and they draw on their hand, or some kids may draw on their face. But makeup is another form of this that we're seeing with some kids. And so it's just a kind of a newer concern with some, I would say there's not a lot of students, but I just think that it might be something we would want to include in our policy, so that when we're talking, with students, that it's a reference point for us. Yes, Leslie.
And also extreme makeup. I mean, we expect some of the older girls to be wearing makeup. Our little girls come after their dance recital, they've got a little bit of makeup on, but it's the makeup on your nose, on your distracting, that it really does distract other kids and stop them from learning, because they're like, whoa, that is so weird.
It's definitely when they're trying to do things that are not a cultural norm. And so, just because somebody's not providing or, adhering to a cultural norm doesn't mean that it's bad. But if it's disruptive, which in our opinion, we feel like it is, then yeah, and it's attention seeking. I think that if kids are getting distracted by the makeup, and it's, they're not listening to the teacher, or they're not focusing on their work because other people are doing things to their, face or whatever, or if it makes a kid feel unsafe, because sometimes if they're not adhering to a cultural norm, then they may have a feeling like, whoa, that's weird, and that's making me feel weird inside, and I don't know how to handle this. So yeah.
So overall, the feeling I'm getting is that we need to have clear rules. So like half rules, you can have this halftime, this not halftime or confusing. And the other thing is generally we want to be accepting of how students would like to present themselves, except for when there's a distracting or explicit type of reason to exclude it. So things like hair color would be, is it acceptable? It's either, is it acceptable to have colored hair or is it still not? If we try and specify like shades or tones or hues and things like that, it's, you know, going to create confusion, right? Same thing with hats. It seems like we need to either decide hats are okay or they're not. Do people on this call agree with that assessment that we need to create straightforward rules, or do we think there is some flexibility within the messaging there?
I think there's flexibility. I mean, just because it changes. This year we have adults in the school and parents in the school who are dressed very nicely and professionally, but have an extreme color of hair, but it doesn't seem to be distracting because it's a different world than it was 3 years ago.
Right.
So
do we think then?
So
that
when you mean by flexible, you probably mean, Leslie, more accommodating to differences, not flexible in the criteria of
Exactly.
the policy.
Thank you for helping me clarify that.
Because
Yeah.
we do want to be accommodating. I mean, I think that that our community is probably way more diverse now than our community was 30 years ago, as our population in Utah continues to diversify. And again, we want to be accepting and accommodating to people. You know, we had, just for instance, I'll say that we got a brand new family that's moving here from Kentucky. And you know, they're from Kentucky, and they are going to bring some cultural values and norms that they had with them from Kentucky that might be very different from what we have here in Utah. And we don't want them to feel ostracized or out of place. So we want to, you know, take what they bring to our community and celebrate the positive things. And as long as it's conducive to a structured and ordered environment for King Elementary, then that's what we want our focus to be on. We don't want our focus to be on conformity and restriction and looking for reasons to not have kids attend our school. Yeah.
So only excluding then the things that are clearly unacceptable, and then pretty open from there. Maybe with still throwing in like, you know, with a I don't know, some kind of discretionary language, you know, because there's always going to be something that's a little too much or too out there. Okay. So how would we like to structure this? Should we take this away, discuss with people in the community, and then come back with proposed updates to the language?
I think that would be a great starting point. Yep. So
Okay.
I can take a screen clipping of this, but it's in our student parent handbook, which I'm pretty sure is linked on our website, but I can just take a screenshot of it. And if you want to get some feedback from people, and then we can just talk about the verbiage. And if, you know, the other thing too is if there are concerns regarding dress code policy that aren't addressed, you know, that you talk to your neighbor and say, hey, you know, is there anything that you're seeing or whatever at school that you do have a concern about? And so, you know, that's the other side, is we just want to make sure that I think that Leslie said it best when that this is something that should be addressed annually, in my opinion. As things change, it's definitely not something that you just want to make it once and never look at it again. And so
I'll bet this thing's pretty stale.
Yeah, I think so. And so I think that it's definitely something that our community council should try to revisit on an annual basis.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So Rick and I can take that away. It sounds like just generally from this discussion, though, things like colored hair and hats, in some of these things that maybe previously would have been seen as distracting, you know, now probably aren't such a big deal. where we'd still want to include things, obviously like anything explicit or anywhere that there's potential harm, like, wheelie shoes. That's something for us to still consider not accepting.
And undergarments should be covered, should cover clothing. And we don't really want to get into modesty a lot because we're not trying to press our values on others, but we still need to have a comfort level where children feel comfortable seeing someone.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Some of the language in here is like, we require sleeves.
Yes.
Yeah, do we still require sleeves? And
I think it's okay to say there's no, spaghetti. I mean,
maybe we don't even have any of that language. We just say undergarments need to be covered. And
I think, and I think these are all, I think these are definitely the types of questions that we would love for you to reach out, to.
I've got a bunch of people in my neighborhood that I know would love to talk about this. So
okay, great. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, we'll definitely reach out. Rick, if you can do the same.
We want that parent voice included. So we really appreciate you.
Yep. So we'll make that a December agenda item, and we will solicit feedback and come back in December ready to talk through the updates or suggestions for updates.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments on that? If not, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is to review our technology safety plan, which this is a big one. All these new devices coming into the school. Last year, one of my children found a little loophole where they could ask Siri to look stuff up. Right. And, they were just innocently looking stuff up, but some of the results that came back weren't so great. And so, I think this is a great topic for us to talk through as a community council, is how do we ensure, kids are using their devices properly, especially when they're going into the homes, and what the, safety plan looks like around that.
With the usage that we have, and the amount of time the kids use devices, and then the access that they have at home, I think it is imperative for us to make sure that we are talking about this and that we're discussing it and making sure that we are doing everything we can to help our kids be safe and successful with technology, because living in a world without technology is not feasible. And so we cannot put our heads in the sand and pretend like technology does not exist. And so the best thing that we can do is to arm our kids with knowledge, in order to successfully navigate, and some good expectations. With our responsibilities as a community council, we are responsible for it. It refers to it as digital citizenship, and that's becoming it's a pretty important thing, and it's something that they're gonna continue to get more and more information about the older they get. However, I feel like the need for us to start talking about it younger and younger is more and more important. And so I do know that there are courses and things in junior high, and we don't necessarily have a course. We have, I'll talk about the avenues that we try to provide some training on digital citizenship here at our school. But we have our computer science prep time class, and in the computer prep time class, talking about digital citizenship is definitely a topic that the classroom, that the computer prep time teacher goes over. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is our social emotional learning program, Second Step. There's definitely some overlapping concepts that are a part of our school-wide curriculum, related to, proper etiquette and treating each other and sharing feelings and all those things that I think have links to digital citizenship. So I'm really happy that our school invested in a social emotional learning curriculum 2 years ago. We purchased it, we have it, our kids are using it, and I think it's having a positive impact on our kids. The other thing, so the state of Utah can provide, there's some assembly options and some other training. I don't know if any of you, are you guys familiar with NetSmarts?
I'm not.
You said that was a program that was state funded that came in and was mainly about internet safety, not necessarily digital citizenship, but internet safety. And I think it, depending on the age of the child, where if it has more of a safety emphasis versus a citizenship or an etiquette, digital etiquette type of a feel, I think kind of depends on the age level. But the one thing that we do here at King Elementary is that we celebrate White Ribbon Week, and that's kind of our internet safety week, where we purchase a curriculum and we go over with our kids internet safety, and we have lesson plans and we have role playing, and we've tried to invest some money into having a curriculum that's kind of specific, but it doesn't mean that it's enough, or that that we can't do something more than what we currently are doing, because I think that it would be wise for us to look into what other ways can we promote digital citizenship at our school. I will say from an administrative perspective that our school does a pretty good job of having kids follow the acceptable use agreement form that they promise to adhere to and that they sign at the beginning of the school year. The number of cases that I have to deal with students who violate the acceptable use is low. And so I think it's good to hear. It's reassuring for parents that a lot of the safeguards and the information that we have in place is working, but by no means should we be lulled into complacency with it, because as is evidenced by our dress code policy, society and life continues to change, and if we keep doing the same thing that we've always done, then we may not be providing what we need for our kids. So those are some of the things that we are doing as far as to try to help educate our kids. And the other thing I was going to mention is when we try to talk about bullying prevention, we always talk about cyberbullying, right, in connection with bullying. And we link digital citizenship to that. And every year, school administration goes around and we talk to, before we even get to a bullying prevention time where we can talk about that specifically, we do a Safe Schools policy review with all of our kids in the entire school. And we talk about, the dangers of technology use and how we have to make sure that we treat it as a serious thing. So those are some things that we're doing, but just wanted to open it up to you guys. I know we're running out of time for our other agenda items, but open it up to your thoughts and about what I've said about what we're doing at King so far.
Yeah, so maybe before jumping into that discussion, I do think we will not have time for our last agenda item, so maybe we can transfer that one to December.
Yep, I think that sounds fine.
Okay. Leslie or Rick, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, doing the Safe School presentation is a great preventative, and I also advocate doing a refresher after long holiday breaks like Christmas, where we review that. It's very helpful, and it seems like giving that predecessor to the whole safety idea is very helpful before the Safe School week. They just have in their minds a little bit more, and we also have activities for the parents to do with them at home. So it's a little more personal, and we encourage parents to, anyway, we give parents some really good tools to make that more effective.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's helpful. Mr. Hanson?
I just wanted to, I know that I just wanted to reiterate that our job as community council is to make sure that we're providing training for both students and parents. And so a lot of the things I've been talking about have been more student centered, but it's still our job to make sure that parents understand concepts of digital citizenship and, have resources and things like that to try to have conversations with their children, because some issues that we have with school technology use occur at school, but some occur in the home. And so making sure that we're, providing training to our parents is super important. So
yeah, it seems like there's a pretty robust plan within the school currently, and there's like the white ribbon we keep talking about and these other measures. Myself as a parent, I think that, at the start of the year, we sign the agreements, to have the devices released to us. Then honestly, I don't really think about it for the rest of the year. Are there currently any programs that I'm not thinking of where we are educating parents? And if not, maybe that's something that we try and design as a community council and implement, where we do like maybe a newsletter home with safety notes and things to remember for parents or something of that nature.
I definitely agree with you that I think that this is an area that we could improve in making sure that we're drawing emphasis to it and providing resources for parents.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. As far as the actual implementation of that, maybe that is also something that needs some brainstorming. I don't know, Rick, if you have any initial thoughts. If not, maybe we could do the same things with the dress code, which is take it forward and, discuss with parents in the neighborhood and kind of get some feedback that we can present next time.
And can I make another recommendation? When we do make changes to our dress code, it's very valuable to look at the dress codes at our junior high and high school. And those have some good ideas and they carry us on through. We may be a little more conservative in elementary school, but they're all in alignment. So parents are getting kind of the same message from every school that they have children in.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. We can definitely reference those materials as we think through that. And maybe we can lead the junior high and high school in some updates. They might have the same problem we have, which is some outdated policies, So yeah, definitely something we can look at. And good friend of mine here in the neighborhood is the community council chair at the junior high. So I can definitely connect with him if we find there to be applicability of that there. Okay, cool. Rick, it seemed like you're about to chime in.
I was just gonna say, like, I also agree with Adam in the sense that, and we're newer to the school, so I didn't know exactly where this might fit in, but yeah, our experience has been that we signed the agreement and that was kind of the last I heard about it. So, but yeah, I think it's a great idea to review frequently and get parents involved. Anyway. Yeah, I don't have much to add on an agreement here as well. And I think I was just going to say what Dan said too. He should get more parent input on this topic too, I think.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So it seems like as community council members, we have some takeaways ahead of the December meeting, which is to solicit feedback on the dress code policy as well as on the things that we could do from a technology standpoint. Separately, we discussed the walkthrough, which Rick, you'll be attending, and Mr. Hanson, you'll be doing an announcement of that walkthrough tomorrow. See if we can get some participation from parents.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, other than that, Rick, if you'll shoot out meeting minutes on the Teams channel when you've got those ready. That'd be great so we can review those. And then I think that's about it. Any other items we haven't discussed that need to be talked through? All right, if not, I propose that we adjourn.
I second that.
All right. Sounds good.
Good job,
Thanks,
Rick.
Al.
Thanks so much for your great ideas. You're just so essential to our school and our success.
Yeah, happy to participate, and you know, hopefully over time we can drive some additional participation, so it's not just a couple of us.
Sure. Keep recruiting.
Yes.
We can keep
Yeah.
recruiting. Find people.
I think having these
Quality
types
over
of
quantity.
conversations are a great recruiting method, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think parents are invested in these conversations for sure.
Hey,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and if they see like, hey, we actually, you know, need some feedback here, would you like to participate? So maybe that's another thing we can kind of do as we have these conversations, is extend invitations to be involved.
Hey, sounds good.
This is
Okay.
definitely the time that everybody needs to know that we want parent input on what goes on at the school.
Yeah, and I'm happy to just do everything myself. I think it would be really fun to type up a dress code policy, but I don't know if all of the parents in the school want me to just decide it for them. So
You'll find out really quick who your friends are. Okay.
yeah, there you go. Hey, I'm all in favor of school uniforms, so I'll write up a policy and we'll look sharp. So
Okay.
no, yeah. All right, cool. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you for
Yep.
those
Thank
that
you.
participated via YouTube. We'll
Yep.
see you later.
See you in December.
Okay.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.